What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? It is your boy, Sean Spencer, one half of that dynamic duo that is Let's Talk Football. Hey, and it's Saturday, ladies and gentlemen. You know what that means. College football Saturday. There are some spring games. But before I even talk about that, you see who I'm with. My guy, standing in front of touchdown Jesus himself. My man, EK Holiday. What up, Eric?
Oh, what up, Sean? I'm excited to be back for another round. I'm a little disappointed that my Michigan man is watching a spring game, so I don't get to bombard him with a barrage of insults. But hopefully, we see him in the chat.
Oh yeah, he'll definitely be in the chat. A shout out to our guy Alex Loosemore was not able to be with us. He's over at his folks' house, and does it? The connection wasn't working. The Canadian connection was not working. It's all good. We gonna figure it out. We gonna take care of this for our guy Zagnif Production. Anthony Handy in the comments. Afternoon gang, what is up, Anthony? Man, hope you are doing well. Hope all is good with you, man. Well, look, I'm here. My guy EK Holiday. We got to talk some football. He alluded to it, some spring games, a couple jersey retirement. We'll see about that. Even got a question for you. A little talk about the Nico situation. Where did he end up? Is he back on the West Coast? We'll see. And then we'll also touch on a number of other quarterbacks that have transferred and gone elsewhere, including somebody that might be a little close to home. But we'll talk about that a little bit later. Hey, let's get right into it. Welcome to Let's Talk College Football. EK, a week ago, you were live, right after we got off. You sat with your popcorn to see Notre Dame's spring game. My friend, talk to us. How was the game, man?
Hey, it was pretty cool, different format than it has been in the past. So it wasn't any drafting teams, anything like that. So it was a good rotation of guys who will be playing with each other, getting reps against one another. Um, it was a good watch. The main reason everybody was tuned in though was so we could get a good feel of what the three-man quarterback race was going to be. We know the defense is going to be good. Pretty confident that the line will. Obviously, Jeremiah Love is Jeremiah Love.
Mm-hmm.
So what we were all watching was the quarterbacks, and fortunately, two guys did stand out, and they stood out above a guy who has been at times a solid contributor for us. So that lets you know that their ceiling is higher. So CJ Carr looked phenomenal. So that was really exciting because that's all I've been hearing is steady Eddie like all spring.
Yeah.
And then Kenny Menchie showed some good stuff too. Very mobile, big arm, maybe a little less consistent than CJ,
Mm.
but they were both clearly standing above Steve Angeli, who we would not have beat Penn State without in
Right.
the playoffs. And we won a bowl game with him the year before, and he's come in and contributed at various times. Awesome guy, great team guy, got his degree. Um, but unfortunately, it looks like for him that the three-man race got cut down to a two-man race, and it was pretty clear the
Yeah.
difference between the top two and him.
Damn. Well, that's what's gonna happen, and you knew that if there was gonna be an odd man out, most likely you predicted that the portal would be waiting for him, and that's what it's looking like. Angeli's going to the portal. Shout out to Alex Loosemore saying, "What's up, guys? Michigan spring game today. Unfortunately, can't watch till next Saturday though. We'll watch it and give you some pointers, some little bit, see what's going on." Number one, before we're going to talk about transfers a little bit later, but let's go back to the quarterback situation. You got Carr, you got Minchie. Obviously, Carr has a connection to our buddy Alex, who has his own quarterback that Mr. Underwood, who looked pretty good in there, or looked good in the little spring workouts. We'll see how he does in the spring game. But one or the other. I know where you stand rivalry wise, but are you leaning one way or the other? Like day one, first game. who would you like to see behind center?
Versus Menchie and Carr. The I lean that I want the best guy, but if I'd be lying if I didn't say that I wasn't super hopeful that CJ is the guy who does ultimately win the job.
Yeah.
And from what I saw Saturday too, I mean, I think the first pass that he threw, I was like, holy moly, I haven't seen that since 2009,
Right.
2008, with Jimmy Clausen.
Hmm.
Um, and then it happened 3 or 4 more times. And he's not throwing it against scrubs. He was throwing it against Leonard Moore, who some people consider the best returning corner in college football, at least according to Pro Football Focus. Um, it was just the little things. He was clearly reading through progressions. But if Menchie is able to beat out what I saw from Carr last Saturday, then he's going to be pretty darn special himself.
Mm. And I
So
mean, you mentioned like you mentioned that it's been since JC, since Jimmy Clausen, since you guys have had a quarterback that's got that kind of arm. And we all love those great gunslingers, the guys that can throw it up and down the field. But at the end of the day, what got you guys to the Natty was a gritty guy like Riley Leonard. Do you see any of that? And I you're going up against the same guy, so it's not like you're going to see real animosity or anything. But are you seeing? Is there anybody that looks like they have that chip on their shoulder?
yeah, I that's kind of hard to say because it's not live as far as getting to hit the quarterbacks. So of course when they hit the gap, it becomes touch football with them. Um,
Hmm.
so as far as lowering their head and seeing if they can fight for that extra yard, I can't tell you to be honest. But everything I know about CJ definitely indicates that he'll cut off his arm if it means it'll get points or a couple extra yards on the board. Um, and by all accounts, Menchie is a great competitor too.
Hmm.
Whether or not you can ride him the way that Riley Leonard did or got
Mm.
ridden is a completely different beast. I think the hope is that you don't have to have that
Yes.
with a quarterback who is a bit more efficient passing. But
Yeah.
everything I've heard, they're both pretty great competitors. So I'm hoping.
We got our buddy that went from Facebook who was hitting us up on Facebook and said, I got to come here. Wanted to put my comment here so Eric can see it. Seeing a grandson of Lloyd Carr as a golden domer, just the throw up emoji. Hey, wouldn't be our guy Alex if he did, man. Let's go. Love it.
I'm
Love
I'm
it.
I'm just happy he has to wait another week until he sees good quarterback play at Michigan.
Ah,
Uh,
I told you this. Hey, all I want for Christmas this year is a playoff matchup: Notre Dame against Michigan. I don't care who hosts it. I just want to see y'all two go at it, and I'm just gonna sit back and let y'all go. I cannot wait for it. Oh man! But look, hey, Anthony brings up a good point, which leads to a question. Georgia did not televise their spring game, as we know. A lot of teams have been questioning if they're going to do it or not because of the impending transfer portal. He says, "This leads to my question: Do you fellas think we are seeing the end of the era in spring game as we know them, with NIL becoming what it is? Could schools be working towards working to monetize these more?" I'll let you answer that first. What do you think, man?
yeah, definitely as we know it. Um, it kind of already has, just from your point, Anthony. Um, Teams are doing different things already. I don't think it'll ever end completely, though. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so that I know that was a lot of fear. People were speculating that would all schools be willing to get rid of it?
We were
Um,
speculating that because we
well,
don't want it to get rid of be
well,
get
we
rid of.
we were speculating it because that was a talk that was out there,
Mm-hmm.
with the Matt rules of the world. And then one of the things that really does stand out is not only is it good for the community, as Marcus said, for us in particular to get people in who can't normally come. It's good exposure for the players to be playing live in front of fans. We all know that adds a different element of pressure. See if they can handle it. But it's also amazing for recruiting. Um,
Yes.
it's huge recruiting visits. I mean, I can't tell you how many guys we had on campus last week, and we've gotten 2 commitments since. There's a guy visiting Michigan today that I'm pretty sure is going to commit to Notre Dame next week, but
Mm.
we could
Hmm.
always see he's at Michigan today for their spring game. You
Hmm.
know, that could change a mind completely. So I just think that it's too much for the fans. We love college football too much. They know that you can generate revenue off of it in some way. So uh, it might become more revenue generating than it has been as far as some schools you could always just walk in to a spring game.
Yeah.
Um, but they're going to get every ounce of money and attention out of us they can. So,
Oh yeah.
um, yeah, it's definitely going to be fascinating to see how it develops at different places. I do not see it at least going away in South Bend for the
Hmm.
foreseeable future. So that makes me very excited. I didn't know that Georgia didn't have a game.
Mm. I think they had one, but it just wasn't televised.
Okay, were
Mm.
fans able to come? That's
Uh,
a question
Handy,
for
let us
Anthony.
know.
And yeah,
Yeah,
that it would be
Kyle.
highly disappointing if fans couldn't come. But
Well, and that's the thing. You and I alluded to it a week ago. That for those fans, for the people like us, like Alex, that want to watch these games, want to see who the new fresh talent is, want to see the older guys come back, and just being there in the atmosphere, being in the stadium, being having football in April. That's huge to a lot of people. I know a lot of people soon as January hits, the season is over and they don't want to hear anything about it till August. That's fine. But there's a lot of people like us that are doing this week after week, talking this football, and these are games that it's that halfway mark from last season to this season where we get a little sneak peek at our teams. Now it's different now because you have so many different outlets covering so many different games and you can see the spring practices and all that. But there was a time when you had to literally be in the premises, at the house, in the stadium to see these games or read whatever the beat writer wrote on, the report or whatever. So we definitely want to have it. Alex said, "Did Georgia players slash fans go through the police check to get the stadium?" Bang bang! Wow, Alex! Wow.
I'm just wondering if schools are checking to see if any people with Michigan allegiances are coming to the spring game.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm. Not a whole lot they could do since there are not full on games, with still schools having to pay players directly as soon as they become an X Factor that pulls the plug. It's interesting. There's still going to be people that want to see, people meaning, like you were saying, recruits, boosters, fans. A lot of people want to see these games and they want to see if, in this day and age, because you are paying some of these guys, they want to see if their investment if they're being rewarded on that investment. You know what I mean? I know our guy Alex talking about it today, the $12 million man, Bryce Underwood. We've heard about things in spring practice, but is he as advertised? We all hope so, but these are people want to go to these games and see if he is that way. So I don't know. It's gonna be interesting. It's
And
gonna be
these
interesting.
recruits, they don't get to take their official visits until later in their high school careers.
Hmm.
So maybe there's a kid from Georgia who's interested in Notre Dame. Maybe I'd say maybe there's a kid from Indiana interested in Georgia, but we don't have kids in Indiana um, of the caliber. Maybe one or two here or there um, of
Or
the
the driving
caliber.
record. Or the
Yeah,
driving record.
to well, they got the Indy racing, so maybe we got
Yeah.
those. But but this you have to think there are kids out there that can't afford um, visiting every place all the time,
Right.
especially if these aren't official visits where they're being paid for
Right.
by the school itself. So. you get to turn on the game Peacock for $5 to watch Notre Dame, or ESPN to watch an SEC game, or whatever Michigan's going to air on. Um, and you get to see kind of the personality of the coaches and the players. The other thing that's really cool about spring games compared to real games is it's typically a lot more lighthearted, and you get to see and hear the coaching in action too. You know, they'll be running plays and they'll have the head coach over asking them, "What'd you just see there?" Um, so it just gives you a completely different view of the program. And to fans, it's awesome, but to players, it might be like, "Oh, I never want to play for that guy."
Mm-hmm.
Like, or they might go, "I'd run through a wall for that guy. I need to make sure one of my official visits is to so and so school."
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And look, we've talked about it multiple times how you'll see recruits go to somewhere and have that very thought where it's like, I don't want to be here. I don't get the same vibe from places. What didn't we see? And this is more in season, but what did we see last year? And what was it, the Florida State or Florida players that when they played Miami and then they all wanted to transfer. They all wanted to go to Miami now. So a lot of times when guys will visit these schools, it's one thing if you play on the field and you can play, but a lot of the college experience is the atmosphere. It is the stadium. It is, if I get a chance to play in front of Touchdown Jesus or at the Big House, I'm not gonna, I might not want to go to a Tulsa or one of the MAC schools. Like I want to play here, even if I might sit. But at the same time, other people might not want all that grandiose. They might want just something more smaller. And these are what really comes out where you see money's going to play a big factor. We all know that, but I think the biggest thing is the fact that now we still have them, and even if the traditional spring game goes away, I love what we're starting to hear from the Deions and the Fran Browns, where it's talking about maybe we have a scrimmage, maybe we have something where you have teams go up against each other and things like that. And I mean, think what that would do for recruiting and everything like that. I mean, we know what how all of this is driven. It's driven by the NIL and the money and all that stuff. But we can only rest on the fact that there are people that still want to see these games, and they think these games are important. So we do. So
Let's be honest. If they were just to work doing tackling drills, we would tune in.
right,
Like, that doesn't give you
right.
anything scheme, anything like that. If they're just running 40s, we would tune in. So
Yeah.
what's the point of it going away, really?
And hey, look, Alex, exactly, Alex. These the way they're trending, these games are going to be aired on Tubi before long, and we'll watch. I don't think they'll go to Tubi because of the $5 Peacock thing. But yeah, I mean, you don't know. I mean, wherever. Let's put it to you this way: wherever they're on, we will watch. If you build it, we will come. If you air it, we will watch it.
I will
Period. The end.
subscribe to the Hallmark channel if they end up.
Absolutely. This just in. It's college football on the Hallmark Channel 2026. Let's go. All right, look, we have to move on. And there is something we did want to talk about. But before we do that, my guy, EK Holiday, he sent me this video. We've been talking about it a lot recently. My buddy Will seems to disagree. But I think there are some distractions in UNC. Okay. Now, those of you that watched the show last week, you know what distractions I'm talking about. And I think this might prove my point. EK, I'm going to show him the video that you sent me from, and shout out to the podcast Truly Unruly, who talked about it, about some emails they uncovered from Bill Belichick's girlfriend. Why? What? You know what? Just watch the video.
Belichick's girlfriend, also personal assistant, philosophy major, author probably.
Assistant
coach, Jordan Hudson. They got their hands.
Hank is locked back in and he's peeved.
They got their hands on some of the emails that she's been sending back and forth.
Oh no.
She said that the school shouldn't use images of Steve and Bill together, Steve Belichick and Bill Belichick together, because she wanted to prevent visual prompts that could fuel accusations of nepotism. She suggested that the Tar Heels avoid referring to Steve as Bill's son and instead highlight his own accomplishments. She said, it is really worth emphasizing the point that Steve has the experience of being a college defensive coordinator and will bring a plethora of knowledge to the coaching staff.
That's facts.
I believe being strategic about the depiction of the Steve will prevent controversy. She calls him the Steve.
Okay.
I believe that being strategic about the depiction of the Steve will prevent controversy and show utmost respect towards Steve's career, validate Bill's decision as head coach to hire Steve. So they've also applied for a number of patents. They have tried to trademark Chapel Bill,
Oh.
the Bellustrator, the Belichick Way, and my personal favorite, Chapel Bill, parentheses, Bill's version,
Oh.
in parentheses. I feel like that one is the winner.
That's the one that
Chapel Bill, Bill's version.
That was definitely Belichick's idea.
Yeah.
Hold up real quick. Hold up. I got it. Hold up.
What? What? Really?
Go ahead, Eric. I don't even want to discuss this.
Oh, well, you're gonna have to, but you ever think of like when you ever like went to a party or maybe even like a family gathering, you name it, and there's someone that walks in, and then you have a friend or another person that's at the party, and they're being so rude, they're a
Right.
distraction. And the person who's saying it is like yelling. Meanwhile, the distraction person is like being perfectly normal. Like, what, what are we doing? Saying, all right, let's make sure that they don't refer to the Steve as
Oh,
Bill's
God.
son. But let me run around in my dress while you're coaching and interrupt what's going on. Look, I don't know if it's going to matter in the win-loss column, but to say it's not a distraction is, I mean, it is. Let's just be honest, man. Whether that distraction impacts the end result, I can't tell you, but it's definitely a distraction. So now, get that brain freeze out. You look like you ate some ice cream and hit the roof of your mouth. What are we thinking, Sean?
2 weeks ago, I came on this very show and told you guys, it's just so refreshing. We got Bill in here, and so everything's going to be held close to the vest. Bill we're not doing Hard Knocks or all that stuff, because we know how Bill is. The Belichick way is getting these guys ready for the pros, and I was ready for that. Then that video came out of him on the beach and him doing Pilates with his 20-some-odd-year-old girlfriend. And I said, might be an issue, but it's all good. As long as he's doing good over here, we're fine. Then there's other video where she's walking in next to nothing, okay, with just a trench coat covering up her super high shorts and tank top, whatever, totally interrupting conversation between Bill and another coach to talk to Bill about whatever. Now, I'm not going to speculate what they were talking about. I just know we all started paying attention, and that guy that Bill was talking about was so uncomfortable that he backed a couple steps away. There's a problem. Now this crap, okay? The funny part about it is how many different titles they were saying that she had, and how assistant coach is eventually going to be one of them. But yes, how many good men have we known that have been good quality, upstanding guys that have had that little gnat in their ear that they listen to? This is where we're at. Distraction. This is a distraction. Why? Why do I need to know anything about this girl? Why are you out here on the spotlight? Just by the fact that you're Bill Belichick's girlfriend, which we're not even going to go down that road. Just that fact alone, you'll get attention. But do you have to be out here in front of everybody? And then on top of and then you're going to sit here and try to call his son, the one that's actually going to help the team on the field, you're calling him a distraction. What? The distraction is trying to trademark these damn names. What? Why? What? The distraction is you walking on field and expecting nobody to look at you. Because you know that all of these young men, all of which are the same age as you are going to be staring at you. Even if, brother, we're all men here. We've all put some shades on when we were with our significant other and kind of had that little peripheral looking at the side of our eye. So you can't tell me that these guys who, when they're running drills, that guy that's in the last part of that line ain't sitting there like, come on now. The simple fact that you get as much power as you have is a distraction. So yeah, you know what?
Do you remember I know you do, but the movie The Replacements,
Yeah.
when they hire a new team of cheerleaders
Yeah.
that all came from another
Right.
profession, and part of the team's strategy to defeating the other team was letting them loose.
Exactly.
But to your point, I don't think she was coming on the field to say, hey, we need to press more, or I think 2 high safeties would help in this situation.
No.
She may very well have been, but I don't think she was.
Listen, until I get a detailed description of what her knowledge is of the game and how she's going to help with his coaching, I'm sorry. I don't necessarily want to see her on the field. I don't want to hear about this. Why are we talking about his girlfriend? Why? Because she's been given such a role in this team that it almost makes you kind of say, is it worth bringing Bill in here if this is what he's going to do? I mean, Bill, come on, man. Would Bill have done this if in New England? Would he have?
No, he had who I think is still, first of all, much more age appropriate.
Hmm.
He had a beautiful girlfriend that you never saw anything about. Maybe she was
Ever.
standing on the sidelines during a game, not on his sidelines, but like on the sidelines where like fans are.
Right.
Right. It blows my mind. And Alex, I know you said you think it's a test, but the real test is, I don't know. You think she's now looking at those guys that are her own age, that are in the prime of their physical fitness? I mean,
Come on now.
it goes both ways. So
Come on.
could you imagine if it went down that track? Oh my
Man,
gosh.
I don't see. It's a distraction that we're even talking about it. And Zagna said, so she's got knowledge of the game for sure. She's playing a different one. Hashtag get them clicks. Hashtag chase some subscribers. And listen, we all talked about what does a 70-year-old former NFL coach know about these 19 and 20-year-olds. And we all said she's the bridge. She can relate to them. To your point, she might relate a little bit too much to them on that. And on the other side, she's not relating to them on their knowledge of the game. She's just coming in here as okay, I'm not going to try to belittle her as a pretty face. Maybe she is doing some things to help in-house. Who knows?
Sure.
But I can tell you from my perspective as a fan, all these videos that we're seeing, and anytime I've seen her, my eyes go to her. Now, yes, I think she's attractive, obviously. What do you think these other guys are going to think? And on top of that, this is almost like a Taylor Swift situation where it's kind of like, hey, we need to pan up to her. We need to pan here so that we can, how is she doing? Now, mind you, Taylor is an empire herself, and this young lady is definitely not. But still, the attention that we're putting on her, it's too much, man. It's too much.
And we're guilty of doing it right now, but how do you
Yes.
avoid it? How do you
Yes.
avoid it?
And that's why we're moving on, because it is a distraction. And this is for Will. I'm clipping this and I'm sending it to you, Will. She's a distraction for my Tar Heels. Now, if we beat you guys, it don't matter. But she's a distraction. You'll see Beamer's wife coming out here. No, because she's good. This is ridiculous. Listen, we're gonna move on. Appreciate you guys here in the comments. And if you thought that conversation got us a little riled up, stay tuned for this one. Shador Sanders and Travis Hunter will have their numbers retired. The numbers 2 and 12 will be retired at the University of Colorado. Well, I'll say this. Travis Hunter, we found that he is one of their only two Heisman Trophy winners, him and Rashaan Salam. Okay. Travis Hunter, we are all debating, can he play both ways in the NFL like he did in college? Because he won it by playing excellent at corner and was one of the best wide receivers in the country by the numbers, right? So for him, what he was able to do, while I still would be like, maybe not, I don't know, I'm okay with this. Travis Hunter is a unicorn. Shador, no disrespect to him, but outside of Roley, I mean, he's a great quarterback, and I think he's going to. I think if he gets in the right situation, he's going to help a team. But I don't even think he's the best quarterback in Colorado history. Now, I don't have the numbers on that, but if we're talking about the impact of the game, I can go back to '94 and look at Cordell Stewart, who they called Slash, who changed the game, or at least had a part in changing the game. They didn't retire his number after that Hail Mary against Michigan. Sorry, Alex. But Eric, what do you think about this? Do you think both or either should have their numbers retired?
Yeah, I guess here's the thing. Having their numbers retired or their jerseys retired, and then you and I had to get in it to dialing into the semantics of that. Jersey retirement, absolutely do it. But retiring the number where no one else can use it, which I believe you clarified is what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
That's a whole other thing. So sure, I can see how you're going to do it for Travis Hunter. He won a Heisman. He played both ways the whole time. He's a unique player in college football history, at least since the 60s on, right? Because before the 60s, everybody was doing it.
Right.
But, so I get that one. Shador, I could get it in 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
I could get it when Colorado becomes a perennial power and they get to say, hey, Shador was part of the building blocks that got us here. But as far as what he actually did on the field, which was fantastic, it just doesn't scream, hey, retirement, one of the greatest players of all time.
Right.
So the thing I don't like about making the numbers unusable, is that, when I was a little kid, I wanted to be Jarius Jackson. I wanted to wear number 7. Now, was he ever going to have his jersey retired? No. But the point remains the same. How many kids out there want to be Travis Hunter?
Right.
How many
Right.
of them are aspiring? I want to go to Colorado now, and I want to be number 12. So not a fan of it, but I certainly think there are cases for it. Typically, unfortunately, when tragedies or that sort of thing happen, I certainly understand it. But retiring the jersey, all for it for Travis, not so much for Shador yet. But I do think there's a path to it in the future. But all of that is irrelevant because it's a done deal. So, yeah, man, should we retire Shiloh Standards stuff too?
And that's the thing. So, Alex said, hard to justify or retire any player after only 2 years of play. Anthony said, for/against arguments aside, I do admire that they're doing it before they pass away or age to the point of walking canes and wheelchair. Right. But let's do it a couple years after they've left the university. I agree that they're doing it early and that's good, but at the same time, doing it at all for these guys is Travis. I can get on board with Travis because Travis is a two-way player. He's literally done something that, like you said, up until since the '60s, that's not something that has been done, especially not now in this modern age where athletes on both sides of the ball are have a lot of times you got guys that are just as athletic and agile on defense as they are on offense. So I get it. He did both ways in the game. The fact that he was able to do that, the stamina that requires, yes, I will start to lean more in that direction. Still, it's iffy for me. Shador, if you're going to do that posthumously, or not even just all the way that down, but even if you're going to do that 5-10 years, like you said, yes. But we're us doing this right now. I mean, and let's add some context to it. You and I, what did we had to do? We had to go down a rabbit hole when we were talking about this and look at all the other universities. I think Pittsburgh leads with like 10 guys but you're talking about guys like Tony Dorsett, Dan Marino, Bill Freilich, Aaron Donald, I think got his, Larry Fitz. Yes, but that was still some years after the fact. I mean, look at you guys. How many? You said there was a number of guys that could have gotten it, but I don't think you guys have any.
Oh
No.
yeah, man. If we're going back to the 1800s,
Right,
we'd
well,
we'd have we'd have no numbers to wear.
yeah,
Yeah. The yeah, none. But the fascinating one to me was, look at what we talked about with Syracuse.
yeah.
They retired it after three amazing, amazing players wore it. 44, Jim Brown, Ernie Davis, and Floyd Little. Like,
Mm-hmm.
well, okay, I get retiring
Right.
that number because that number is not symbolic of just that one individual. Like that's like a group of people who have ever worn it.
Right.
Um, yeah, but to your point, it's a real rabbit hole of who does it and what schools do it and why they do it. I'm gonna let you bounce off that, but I would like to dive into why in a minute. I think that it makes sense that they're doing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So to that point, like you were talking there, Dame, North Carolina has 5 guys, and four guys or five, and all of that was back and predates the '60s. So as a matter of fact, the first one was in '35, and Andy Burchak, and then there's everybody else was in the '40s. Uh, Mid to late 40s. Like we don't, and we're talking about guys not having it like LT, Julius Peppers. So to me, maybe it's each individual place is different because, like you alluded to, some players, while the number might be retired, you can still wear it because we've seen guys like that have had the Michigan guy you were
Harmon,
talking about. Say what's his
Harmon,
name again?
for all the Harmon, for all the TV fans, his son was the uh, NCIS guy. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I believe, first Heisman winner for Michigan. But throw it back to you to explain what was done with it.
Mm-hmm. So, and what they ended up doing was, and Alex, you can also attest to this. Oh, actually, I feel instead of retiring these numbers, they should do what schools like Michigan and LSU do. Just the two I can think of off the top of my head. For Michigan, you have to earn the top numbers. Exactly, and that's the point, and that's what we've seen. You saw the quarterback a couple years back that wore that number for Michigan, number 98, as a quarterback, but he earned that. And a lot of times you'll see it in a lot of these different places where they have to earn that number and to wear it, and that's the only way they could wear it. Michigan, you have to earn number 1 or 2, and for LSU, it's 1 and 7.
Well,
So,
I'm out on this idea because anything Michigan or LSU do is
oh,
just
oh yeah, you hate LSU too.
no. I do like his idea a lot though. Like
Yeah.
like honor it. Like make it something that you would be like fight to wear because you know
Mm-hmm.
it is something that greats wore. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so
And it's
yeah,
a reward.
yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, real quick, we're gonna take a quick commercial break, and on the other side, we're gonna do this trivia question, but it's gonna keep this conversation going. And Eric, I'm gonna let you tell why you're okay with it or
Yeah.
some parts of it. Uh,
So yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. After I
yep,
got you. I
yeah,
got you.
yeah,
I'm
I
just
got it, yeah.
excited. I'm just excited.
My man, let's go. Yo, all right, we'll be right back on the other side. Before we do that, because live is always fun like this, we want to ask a question. How many schools have retired players' numbers? We actually alluded to that earlier, and we'll come back on the other side with somewhat of an answer. I think we got an answer, but we'll also have Eric talk about it on the other side. All right. Now we'll be right back. Check out my guy, Anton Benson. Yeah, buddy. That's my guy, Anton Benson of Awesome Artisans, awesome_artisans on Instagram. He's on Facebook. Lives in the Virginia Beach area. And he will travel up and down the East Coast and he'll travel to the Midwest. So definitely get in touch with him if you need some work done. Hey, Alex Mooseport said, I know from my dynasty on CF College Football 25. I remember dedicated to all the top guys at their respective positions. I can dig it. I can dig it. I'm going to guess somewhere between 10 and 15, not many that I know of. So we'll go back to this question and how many schools have retired players numbers. I will let you go into kind of why you're kind of okay with it, and I'm going to just double check the answer on how many schools have done it.
Yeah, I wouldn't even attempted that answer without cheating. So, full disclosure. So the reason I get it, I don't know that I like it, but the reason I get it and I understand it is when I think of Colorado history over the last 30 years, um, I can only think of a handful of players
Hmm.
um, that I think of. To be honest, the first player I think of when I think Colorado football is Jeremy Bloom.
Hmm.
Uh, there just haven't been that many guys. There hasn't been that much good in the last 30 years. Once Cordell was gone, and then the controversy, the terrible things that did happen at the program off the field in the late 90s. Since then, there's just not much that's relevant, right? Um, so, a kid that was born in what are we at? 2025. So, oh my gosh, this is crazy. But, so they're like 2018 or 2008, 2007,
Hmm.
when these recruits are coming from, you know, the program hadn't been relevant for a decade at least at that point in time. So, yeah, they're building a brand. They're saying, hey, look at these greats we've had. Hey, we got Shador's number retired over here. We have Travis Hunter's number retired over here. Look at these greats. Um, and that is a great recruiting pitch, but you're also kind of manufacturing a history for a team that there hasn't been much good history for in 30 years. So I get it. it makes sense. If that's the objective. If the
Mhm.
objective is what's hurting our hearts, which is feeling like you're just doing it to do it because it's your kid, and hopefully that's
Hmm.
not what it is. And
Hmm.
I think Dion is much bigger of a thinker than that. So that's
Mhm.
why I say I understand, because I think he knows all about promoting.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Oh
he
yeah.
knows what's going to resonate with young people, and I really think that it's a smart thing to do when, as a avid college football player or a college football fan, the only people I can think of are Bloom, and we had they had a really good receiver. I can't think of his name right now. Um, his father was one of the best quarterbacks in like Colorado history, but these are like the only guys I can think of from
Right.
the
Right.
last 30 years. So got to do something.
You do. You do. So the number is a lot larger than I thought. But you got a lot of one-off schools that, like in Akron or like at Weber State, where it's not, they might have one guy that was just universal that came through there. So there's 98 schools that have retired a number or a jersey or something of that regard. And some of these schools you wouldn't know. Some of them it'd be pretty obvious. Obviously, Oklahoma State, like a Thurman Thomas and Barry Sanders, that type of stuff. But then I mentioned us, where you have LT and Julius Peppers who didn't have their numbers retired. You know what I mean? So some schools do it, and a lot of these, to your point about Notre Dame, it's a long time ago. Like Wisconsin got Elroy Crazy Legs Hirsch as one of the guys that they retired. You know what I mean? A lot of these, it might not necessarily be something that was recent. It might have been years and years ago, but it has happened. But again, when you look at these names, one of two things is present. Either they were legends and they got it done years later, or posthumously, or these were smaller schools and these guys just played out of their mind. The best player these guys have ever had at some of these schools, and that is, that's why. So at the end of the day, it is a little bit more common. But to your point, Eric, it seems as if this does have an ulterior motive, meaning that there is maybe the fact that it is. Some can look at it on face value and say, "Oh, it's my son, and this is part of my legacy." But then on the other side to it, I do think it has to do with what you're saying, getting people to come in there, having names that you can look to and say, "That guy, I want to be like that guy." And when you look at Colorado, outside of some of the names you said, or the Rashawn Salam, or the Eric Bieniemy, or Cordell Stewart, or if you're a Washington fan, Michael Westbrook, you know what I mean? You have a couple names, but you really don't have anybody that's prominent that you're like that guy. Like I can go to Notre Dame and sit there and tell you quarterback after quarterback, tell you running back, tell you defensive players, all these different players, because but that's what it was. And that's one of the reasons why they don't necessarily have as much, in my opinion, because if you really look at the talent level and some of the greats, they've always had somewhat great, but when you're that unique level, and that's why I'll give it to Travis. He is that dual offense defense, something that we truly have not seen in the modern game. And that's why I think he should, again, if we're talking 10 years down the line and they want to do the store, more power to you. I'm on board with yours. But um, Alex said, only reason I know Joe Clapp played quarterback there too was because he talked about him on his podcast.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, and that's the thing, right? That's everybody that you just named was before 95.
Right. Right.
And, and Cordell Stewart means absolutely nothing to a kid that was born in 2007. Michael Westbrook, he means something to the Skins fans, um, but what he means nothing to a kid born in 2007.
Right.
So that
That's true.
That's the wild part of it. Like, compare Colorado to UNC.
Mm-hmm.
UNC hasn't had the greatest success on the field, but they've had multiple quarterbacks drafted lately. They had Drake
Mm-hmm.
Mago early. They had
Mm-hmm.
Trubisky. Um, they
Sam
had a
Howell.
Hall of Famer defensive end that's happened since late '90s, early 2000s. Um, I can name a bunch of players there. Um, Colorado has just been off the map completely.
Totally.
We
Yeah.
just know they've got the awesome Buffalo that runs out on the field, and that's
Mm-hmm.
about it.
Yeah.
This does beg a question that I have for you, and if Alex wants to chime in, who are players in the sport that absolutely should have their number retired? It's just in the history of the game. So one stood out to me, and it was like, yep, I understand if a team or UCLA did not want that number to ever be worn, or if it
Mm-hmm.
had to be the earned one.
Yeah.
Um, and that's the Jackie Robinsons of the world.
Mm-hmm.
He
Mm-hmm.
was a great baseball player, but also a really good football player. But the impact there is just so meaningful.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I just can't think of a ton of people that it's like, oh yeah, that should be untouchable.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Anybody stand out to you?
As the untouchable. Let me look and see if this person has.
And it could be Archie Griffin, the only person to win 2 Heismans.
Exactly.
I get
Exactly.
that. I get that one. Michigan. Nope, can't think of anybody there. Um, so there. I mean, there are these like special cases,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't think there's really that many guys that should be untouchable unless it's you did something that no one else has ever done,
Right.
or you did things that are more meaningful in life than just football.
Well, so here I'll give you one, and actually let me look this up because if we're talking about meaningful, then let me just see real quick. Oh, they do have his. I was gonna say Pat Tillman, but
Oh,
they have his retired.
absolutely.
They have his retired.
100%. And
Yeah.
that's the fascinating thing too, is there's all these guys like a Pat Tillman. Now Pat was really good,
Mm-hmm.
but can you think of how many people played college football at these different schools that we don't know their name,
Right.
but they may have done things similar to Pat Tillman? Um, so it's shoot, the whole Naval Academy shouldn't have any numbers to use.
Exactly. Exactly. And they got 4 people. But and Napoleon McCullum, Jim Bellino, Keenan Reynolds, and Roger Staubach. Keenan
Yeah.
Reynolds was a couple years ago. That was 2012, 2016.
Yeah, but all those other guys that they went there and we have no idea who they are. But
Let me see if
look at some of the things
Florida.
they may have done in their lives. So
Is
yeah,
Florida? Because I
I can
wanted to
think of a
see.
couple. And Ndamukong, I can get behind Ndamukong.
Florida has nobody.
Reggie, in my opinion, Reggie Bush is the best college football player I've ever seen, but I don't think
Hmm.
his number should be untouchable.
Hmm.
Um, Vince Young, Tebow. Uh, I don't know. And Dominican Sue almost won the Heisman as a defensive player, a
Mm-hmm.
defensive lineman.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I just don't know that. And Alex, I love the names, and I get why you would put them there. It just doesn't resonate as much for me, even though, like I said, I do think Reggie Bush is the best college football player I've ever seen.
I'm yeah. Off the top of my head, this is definitely a discussion we can carry on later on because off the top of my head, I'm trying to like really differentiate between a guy that was just really good to a guy that was otherworldly. Like maybe I'd put in Earl Campbell.
Yeah,
They named the
sure.
stadium after this guy. The guy was absolutely amazing in college and all that stuff. But I
Bo
mean, he was
Jackson.
a force. Bojack, right? These guys were forces. But then again, it's like how many years did Bo play, and does it have to be a 4-year thing? Sure, and he retired. Yeah, pound the table for Sue. The rest is debatable for me. Yeah,
And
I get
Sue
it.
Sue put fear in the hearts of us watching TV from thousands of miles away.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, oh, I'd never want to walk down an alley with that guy there. Oh my
Right.
gosh. Yeah, it's fascinating. It's a fun thing. But no Shador for
Um,
me. No Shador.
yeah, let us know what you guys think. I'm with you on that. I just when it comes to Shador, like maybe in some time, maybe a couple years later, I'll be okay with it. But as far as right now, a little questionable for me. A little questionable. So let us know what you guys think. We're gonna do a quick little bit of news, right quick, and then we're going to actually transfer our other topic, and we're gonna wait till our guy gets here next week with Alex. I did want to talk about this before we let you guys go. The ongoing Nico Iamaleava situation. Currently, we've heard North Carolina's out. We've heard Tulane was potentially trying to do it. They're now out. And all things are pointing to potentially you at UCLA, but apparently maybe contract talks or whatever, which is weird that we're even having that conversation. What is the update that was the latest update you've heard? Is UCLA where all signs are leading towards that, or what you think?
Yeah, I think all signs are leading there, but you can't find anything official on it. I think I made a joke to you earlier that they agreed to a deal, and
Mhm.
he has since decided he's worth more than what he agreed to 2 days ago. But that's because I think I'm funny. But
But it's probably true.
the all signs are pointing there. It's an interesting fit. Um, I get it for UCLA. Deshaun Foster is trying to revive a program and make a name out
Hmm.
there and make
Hmm.
a splash. Um, I just don't get it for him.
Hmm.
Um, yep. So I think he may have lost himself tens of millions of dollars to try and get a
Hmm.
couple extra $1 million. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
And his posts, I don't know, how closely you follow, but some of his posts that he's put on social media, poking fun at kind of some of the allegations about that he was clocked out and that he was going to sit out um, for the playoff game. He's poked fun at some of those on social media, but the optics just don't look good. He's got one of him like kind of stiff arming an Ohio State player, and he was like, "Oh, is this when I was trying to tank for or sit out of the game?" And then he's got one talking to I think his receiver or another quarterback, and he's saying, "Oh, I'm talking to him about how I don't, I'm gonna sit or I'm gonna boycott the game or some nonsense like that." And I was just like, dude, regardless if it's true, and I tend to believe that in that situation that he was in, where you have somebody that is being a father or whatever that's in control of a lot of that you don't have as much say as you think you do. So where we all think that he
Yep.
has all this say and he's the one telling these schools I'm worth this and I'm worth that. A lot of times, I know even in my house with some of my finances, my dad was when I was under his roof, he was definitely in charge of all that. So now you got situation. My quarterback, JD5, his mom won't let him even talk to girls. You know what I mean? Because of the fact that she's very focused in on his future and everything like that. So this is kind of a situation where the parent is kind of overstepping their bounds a little, LeVar Ball esque, and it's and the son is getting a lot of the flack for it. But when you put these things up on social media, kind of poking fun of it, people aren't going to look at it funny. They're not gonna find the humor that you might have found, and actually kind of proves their point in their minds. So just I would say to kind of pump the brakes on this, but I would ask you, is this? And I know a lot of people will say it is, but is this signs of a bigger problem? Obviously, we've heard recently Fran Brown, coach of Syracuse, was out saying, I'm not paying no wide receiver $2 million. And his wide receiver, who you said you've seen highlights, you've seen clips of him. I watched a lot of Syracuse, but I didn't. The guy didn't stand out to me. but he entered the transfer portal after apparently asking to make $2 million. Um, is this part of a bigger issue, or do we need coaches like Josh Heupel and Fran Brown to say, no, you're not getting this. You're not going to give you all this daggone money and start NFL type stuff here. Like, what do you think?
Yeah. First, I just want to give you credit on the talk about how these kids really don't have as much of a voice as we think that they do.
Hmm.
And often, even when they do have the voice, there are subtle obligations that they think that they have to live up to. So
Yes.
your parent may say, "Hey, we don't need that," but you also see them working 3 jobs.
Hmm.
So I completely agree with that. And we don't know the story of his life or their financial situation, anything like that. With that said, I don't know. I feel like this is a good thing. This is happening. I know you
Mm.
said a bigger problem, but we've been waiting for the wheel to break in some fashion, and um, hearing that coaches were calling Tennessee and saying, "Hey, look, your guy's trying to get some money out of us. He's talking to us while he is supposedly a member of your team." Um, and same thing with the receiver at Syracuse. It's good that coaches are kind of finally putting a united front to some degree.
Hmm.
Um, because if they don't, it's just going to get out of hand, completely out of hand. I mean, I already think the portal and all that is, but just when we think it's as bad as it can be, we find out, oh yeah, it can be worse. Um,
Hmm.
so
Hmm.
as far as him as a player, like I I, I didn't watch much Syracuse football this year, so after you brought the topic up of him, I kind of did a little bit of a dive, and I thought, all right, well, let me at least like watch his highlights, and I watched 11 minutes of highlights, and like I said, oh, that's a good receiver,
Hmm.
and that was it. Like I was waiting, I wanted to go, oh wow,
Right.
what a play that was.
Yeah.
Because to Fran Brown's point, he said in that video, um, there's a guy in Ohio State that makes that money, and
Hmm.
there's no similarity there.
Right.
Now, in the right situation, are you worth it? Sure. They're rumoring him with Penn State. Um, you're worth it because they could be on the verge of competing for a national title this year,
Hmm.
and they could use another good, solid player. But as far as like your straight pay for play value, nah. That's a 250 500K player. That is not a $2 million guy. Um,
Yeah.
so I think most teams would love to have this player. I think there are only 1 to 2 teams, which is all it takes, that might be willing to pay that kind of money for him. But that's because they're in very unique situations. It's not because of who he is as a
Yeah.
player.
Yeah. And I'm part of it. We understand is this is kind of where we're at. This is the culture of the game and all that right now. But to your point, I'm very glad that we are having coaches that are kind of honoring what they're building and other coaches and all that. Because Lanning could have very easily been like, "Oh, you want to come here? Oh yeah, yeah, come on." He didn't have to call Coach Heupel and like that. And you have to have coaches that are going to take a stand on this type stuff. The problem, to your point, there's going to be somebody, and even to Alex's point, where he says, if USC gets desperate enough, if you get some of these guys that are desperate enough and they didn't land the recruit they thought they could land, they will pull the money to do these type of things, and it's going to be interesting. Jared Harmon said Nico's camp gone to earn the last chance to you if they. Hey, right? What up, Jared?
Coach Brown at a JUCO. Yeah,
Look,
I'm with
come
him.
on now.
That's a great point. The that that's awesome.
Yo,
But the final thing with that though is, and Fran Brown, just diving back into that one more time. If Jeremiah Smith had reached out to Oregon, Oregon wasn't calling Ryan Day to talk to
mm-hmm,
Ryan Day.
mm-hmm,
So you need to have a real idea of who you are and who your value is, or what
Right.
your value is. Um, because if you are Jeremiah Smith, you can do that.
Hmm.
Um, and you'll get bites. But Nico might not even start if he went to Oregon right now.
Hmm.
So why would they pay him $4 million?
Right.
So uh, you got to be a little in tune with your abilities before you go in and try and do something like this. But
Oh yeah,
that's
very
that's
true.
hilarious. Last chance you.
That's where we are, and I hate to start to even act like this, but now we're starting to get to that place where it's starting to say, okay, what is the value that you're placing on the players' efforts and things like that? But I think to your point, some of these guys have a little, you know, bloated value, thought of how good they are, and I'll end on this, and I'll go back to my high school coach. My high school coach, my senior year, we were talking about players on the team, and he was talking about some of the, these guys that are stars on this team, and we've got, and he said, we got two stars, name two guys, and I kind of piggybacked in like, yeah, man, you got this guy and that guy and this guy and me, and then he kind of sat back in his chair and just kind of chuckled, and he said, you're kind of you're talking real loosely about that word star, aren't you? And to me, I'm sitting here like, I'm the starting running back. I'm definitely a star. But my image of myself and his image of me, two very different things. So we gotta understand that some people's image of you or what some people has hyped you up to be ain't everybody's view of you. And he has a year of tape on him, Nico does. Uh, but he's also has people that have picked up on some of his tendencies and some of his flaws and the fact that whenever he comes up against a real big school, he kind of he lays an egg.
Yeah,
So the stuff's out there just as well as all of your 5-star talent. And let me tell you something: after you were recruited, people will mention your 5-star status, but that can also work against you because if you don't
oh,
do well, they'll be like, "Look at this 5-star. Look at this guy that was supposed to be. Oh, but now I got this 3-star over here that's leading us to the championship." People will use that against you, so don't hang on that 5-star too much.
sure, Fran Brown on Last Chance You. Just make sure to be more like the EMCC coach and less like the Independence coach. The Independence coach was fire, man.
Hmm.
That was pure entertainment value. What was the other one? EMCC, because they were both pretty terrible
Hmm.
at the end, if I remember. I don't know if you ever watched Last Chance You or not,
No, I
Sean.
didn't. I didn't check. I didn't check that.
Oh well,
Might have
it's
to.
it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. But it's all these guys we're talking about.
Oh yeah.
It's the 5-star that went to Georgia or Alabama, and they wasted all their chances. So now they're at the JUCO, and
Hmm.
you're watching them. And even then, they're not performing against other JUCO players, but still in their mind, they shouldn't be there. They're better than everybody else.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, so
I remember when Spencer was on there. I did see that clips of the Spencer Rattler when
yeah,
he.
I think that was
Yeah.
a slightly different one.
Okay.
That was like a Sam Hartman. That was
Oh.
like QB1 or something like that, where
Okay.
they were
Okay.
in high school and about to go to college.
Yeah.
The JUCO ones, you're watching guys who have really fallen out,
Hmm.
and they're there because no one's going to give them a chance. Now, if they play well, schools start looking again. But
Hmm.
yeah, their a lot of their egos did not get checked out when they got down to a JUCO school, which
Hmm.
was like mind blowing.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And a lot of these people will keep that ego. Oh man! Shout out to my guy Jared. Said Fran Brown is so refreshing. I can get behind any coach that's starting from the bottom but doing it the right way. Absolutely, absolutely. I'm 100% with that. And Alex said he was entertaining as hell, but also telling players he was their Hitler and stuff like that. That's the side of Jason Brown I was going at.
Oh yeah, I agree, but it was entertaining
Mm.
nonetheless.
Yeah, it makes me want to go back and watch that now.
If
Excited.
I had a kid, I would keep them
Under
far
the
away
lights.
from him.
Yeah, this is the one I saw. The series
Yeah.
QB1 Under the Lights with Fields, Hartman, Rattler were all featured on that. So did DJU as a backup. One of the QBs on there. Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. So, yo, all right, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, we had to talk Nico because he's definitely still in news. But I definitely wanted to clarify some of that stuff on him because I've noticed that a lot of the rap about Nico has been about, oh man, look at this kid. This is what's wrong with college football, and this kid is sitting here asking for all this money, X, Y, and Z. And you got to add the context, guys. You've got to add the context and how much his family plays a role in it. And again, this guy's not 21. This guy's still young. He's still a kid. He's still, his parents. I know. I'm 40 something, and my parents still are very big in my life as far as hey, you shouldn't do this or you should do that or X, Y, and Z. Now, obviously, I'm in a position where we're not living in the same place, and I ain't making all that money, so it ain't that big of a deal. But if I got millions of dollars coming in, we're supposed to be leaning towards our parents as the ones that have their head on their shoulders, that have our best interests at heart. And sometimes, with a lot of the other things coming from some of those neighborhoods, sometimes they are thinking, this is my meal ticket. And so they're going to, act the way they're going to act on their child's behalf, and the child will get scapegoated for it. So that's the side of it that stinks. But yeah, these are all things that are in this day's college football, man. So, my guy Ek Holiday, always good talking to you, my friend. And let me tell y'all something, ladies and gentlemen. Me and Ek have known each other for several years, and there was a gap in between a couple times. And when I first went back to school, once I got older and went to Nova, my guy Ek was there, and that was a little vote of confidence I had. But then once I got into doing this college ball, Ek and I have talked ball for a long time. So anytime I got an opportunity to talk it, I was like, man, I'm gonna get you in here some way, shape, or form. And finally, it's coming to fruition where we've been talking 3 weeks in a row, my guy.
I know. At some point, you're gonna, jump onto the fact that I don't know too much, but I'm gonna enjoy the ride while it lasts.
Yes, sir.
Boo, Michigan.
Yeah,
I hope Michigan loses today.
right to themselves. Yo, and we got to shout out my co-host Alex Loosemore, who will be back with us. Let's talk college football. I'm kind of convinced that certain Notre Dame people might have affected the Michigan Wi-Fi or the Canadian Wi-Fi.
Let's
Tried
hope
to.
their quarterback play is finally better than the Wi-Fi.
Yeah. That football mind is partially tainted by the fact that he's an Indy fan. Oh man, I'm calling it. We need to have Michigan and Notre Dame go back at it. We need to have it. I can't wait. Yo, but hey, as for me, I'm your boy Sean Spencer. You see that guy? That's Ek Holiday, and our guy in the comments, Alex Loosemore. We appreciate all y'all have been jumping in the comments, talking to us. Jared was in here. Alex, our boy Ben. Um, Anthony, Colin, etc. We appreciate you guys talking to us and getting in here and doing it. They'd find a way to run away from the matchup again. Oh man, bang, we're gonna start a whole nother show on this one. No, we
So,
got.
I'm not. When it's time to go to a history lesson, I'm ready for that conversation. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm ready for that one.
Wow. Oh man, it's getting heated up in here. It's getting heated. Look, we're out of here. This is Let's Talk College Football. We'll see y'all next week. No, next week we might not be here. Next week is the NFL draft, so we might come. I think we're gonna come back with you on potentially Tuesday if I can get these guys together, and then to preview the upcoming stuff on the draft and the transfer portal and some of that stuff. But we will not be here next week because of the draft, and we'll be doing draft talk. So for my guy Ek Holiday, it is your boy Sean Spencer. We will see you on the flip side. Hey, and still to this day, Bill Belichick's girlfriend is a distraction. Peace.